Hi folks, welcome back to my channel and day 25 of the 2018 Inktober drawing challenge. Today's prompt is prickly, so it was pretty easy to decide what animal I was going to draw. The challenge today was more how I was going to paint my prickly little hedgehog and all of those prickly spines. So today I'm going to be using Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay inks, and as always before I began putting paint onto paper, I swatched out the colours I thought I'd need, having spent a few minutes studying my reference picture. So when I was thinking about how I was going to tackle this piece, I decided to paint the background in first, so that any of the darker hedgehog spines could be painted over the lighter green of the background. I thought this would be a lot easier than trying to fill the background in around the spines if I'd chosen to do the hedgehog first, but I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. This just seemed to make sense for this painting. Then I went in and added a bit of colour to the rest of the background, and in particular two really brightly coloured flowers. Now although I wanted these to stand out a bit more than just be part of a blurry background, I didn't want them to be super detailed either, so painted them quite loosely, adding water to create a bit of a gradient in the petals and hopefully keep them light and fresh looking. Then once this had all dried, it was time to start on the hedgehog, and I began with my favourite part, the eye. I used sepia ink first, then added a bit of blue ink near the reflection, and then lastly added some black. For the hedgehog's nose, I used a similar method to his eye, but this time used black instead of sepia as a base. So now moving on to the spines, and I did wonder about using masking fluid today, just to block out some of the white tips to the spines, especially where they were more defined on the hedgehog's body, but decided not to since I wanted to create something a bit less organised and a bit more spontaneous. In the end, what I did was apply some clean water in a sweeping motion over a small section of the nose, following the direction of the spines, and then added ink, and where the ink met the water it spread out, but where it met the dry paper it didn't, and I thought this looked quite effective and it was quite fun to do as well. So I carried on with this process, gradually moving up the nose and under the eye area, but being careful to pay attention to the direction of the spines as I moved over the face. And as the ink dried, I was able to add a few more layers over the top, just to add some more value and texture to the nose area. But despite my initial concerns that this piece would take ages because of all those spines, it was actually quite a quick process and didn't take too long at all. So moving on to the main body of the hedgehog now, and this area is far more spiky and prickly than the hedgehog's nose. So to try and convey this in my painting, I swapped over to a larger brush, but still kept with the same technique of applying clean water first, followed by a more concentrated and darker sepia tone. So this was the same technique, just a little bit bigger and a bit darker. And another thing I noticed when I first studied my reference picture was that the hedgehog spines at the back were not really uniform in the direction they faced. They were quite random, and this more spontaneous and loose technique for applying the ink seemed to work quite well for that. So once the base was down, I breathed a bit of a sigh of relief, as I wasn't completely confident before I started of how it would turn out, and then went in with a smaller round paintbrush to add in a bit more contrast and detail to his nose and around his eye. Now this part is the sort of part that you can keep going and going, and it can be quite hard to know when to stop. So I did take a few short tea breaks in between these last layers just to get fresh eyes on it and more easily see areas that still needed attention. I think the main thing I noticed with ink is, obviously, as I've found out throughout Inktober so far, it does dry quite a bit lighter, so I did need to go in and add some more contrast and value, certainly around his eye and on his nose area. And again on the shadow underneath his face, it did dry quite a lot lighter. So again, I had to add a couple more layers under there to really kind of get that contrast that I needed. On the whole though, I really enjoyed painting this little hedgehog. I did think it was a bit of a daunting challenge to start with, but was pleased with how it turned out. So after adding in some small details with my small fine paintbrush, I did then go back in and just add a little bit more colour, almost like a glaze over certain areas just to darken them up, and then finished off by going in with some neat black ink to further darken up the areas of the eye and the nose. But I hope you've enjoyed this video and this little hedgehog painting. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon as well if you don't want to miss out on the rest of the Inktober videos. I'm uploading every day until the end of the month. So I just finished this painting off just by going in with my sepia fine liner and my white gel pen just to add some whiskers, and this painting was done. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all again tomorrow.